Welcome to Fudge Muppet, my name is Scott, and today I'm proud to be presenting you the first of our Starfield role-playing builds, the Gunslinger, the fastest gun in the Starfield, a man who solves his problems with his iron and brings justice to the wild frontiers of space. A grizzled veteran of the Colony War, he has seen his fair share of its horrors and the wickedness it left in its wake. Pirates, spacers, thugs, none will escape this hand of the law. In gameplay terms, this guy is the ultimate pistols build, able to unload a magazine in seconds, just deleting enemies with high crit damage and high crit chance, running through the hectic combat, vaulting over walls, sliding behind cover, getting nice and close John Wick style and blowing them away. These are dedicated role-playing builds complete with backstories and character personalities, but if that isn't something that interests you, then you can use the timestamps to navigate to the more statistical parts of the build. Also, I'm keeping this spoiler free like all of our builds will be. No main story talk or quest outcomes spoken about, we want you to experience these for yourself. The role-playing section will give you a more in-depth insight of the character's personality, and so you will be able to infer the choices he would make from there. But with that said, let's dive into the character creation. Conceptually, I wanted to create an old grizzled war veteran who has taken up the badge to fight outlaws who prey upon the defenseless. Think of the Western genre martial archetype, a veteran of the Civil War. I loosely based the appearance on Jeff Bridges from his roles in The Hateful Eight and True Grit. I wanted him to have this vibe. Your appearance may vary as you like, and with your name I recommend coming up with something that sounds Wild West. I chose Wayland Reed for my Gunslinger, and this is the name I use in the backstory, but of course you can just insert your own character name. For background, I went with Soldier for several reasons. As I explain later in the backstory, the Gunslinger is a veteran of the Colony War, fighting on the side of the Freestar Collective. The Freestar Rangers faction questline is also thematically involved somewhat with the Colony War, so it's cool to be a character who has a soldier past. Skills-wise, the soldier background also comes with several benefits, with the starting skills being fitness, ballistics, and boost pack training, all of which we will be investing into over the long term. Remember, this character is the cold, harsh law of the frontier. He isn't based off outlaw archetypes, so while backgrounds like Space Scoundrel may also be a cool fit for a Western vibe, it doesn't have the exact energy I was looking for. I think I will save that for a smuggler build. I've got the perfect song choice for you to understand the vibe of this character. Listen to God's Gonna Cut You Down by Johnny Cash. It perfectly encapsulates this character's vibe. He is the justice found at the end of a smoking barrel. But before we talk traits, I wanted to give a massive thanks to the sponsor of this video, LG, because they made my first Starfield experience all the more special. They sent me their 45-inch Ultra Gear OLED curved gaming monitor with a 240Hz refresh rate and a 0.3 millisecond response time, and it is amazing. The immersion is insane. With NVIDIA G-Sync, a 240Hz refresh rate, and HDR10, this brings beautiful color, making those exotic alien worlds and beautiful cities in Starfield just pop. It also has an anti-glare and low reflection screen, so if you're in a brightly lit environment, it won't diminish your experience. But brightly lit rooms aren't my style, and I've spent hundreds of hours in this spot playing Starfield on this 45-inch sensational screen, encapsulating my entire field of view with Starfield's beauty, with amazing color depth and accuracy. But this monitor excels when things get crazy on screen. Its low latency, G-Sync support, and that 240Hz refresh rate makes playing high-octane combat like I am here with this Gunslinger build an epic experience, or especially playing first-person view in your spaceship. It feels like I'm in the actual cockpit of my ship. Over the course of this video, you are going to see shots of this fantastic monitor in action, and of course the sensational gameplay of the Gunslinger is recorded on the monitor in a 21:9 ratio, giving you a full theater widescreen experience. So if you're keen to get completely immersed in Starfield and are in the market for a new monitor, you can check it out yourself with the link in the description box below, or you can check out the pinned comment, but in all honesty, this is 100% Fudge Muppet approved. It's a great piece of equipment. As for traits, I chose 3. Freestar Collective Settler, Raised Universal, and Terra Firma. Freestar Collective Settler and Raised Universal are mainly role-playing picks. As you will find in the backstory, he will have a relatively rural and religious upbringing, mirroring the experience of many in the Wild West of America's past. Terra Firma does confer stat bonuses, increasing health and oxygen when on a planet, but decreasing them when in space. And typically, you are doing most of your combat on a planet, so it pans out well stats-wise. But mainly, it's another role-playing pick. The idea being that he's a real salt-of-the-earth character, keen to have the fresh breeze of an atmosphere and the steady soil of a planet under his feet. The backstory and role-playing sections of the video will expand way more about this character in terms of personality and motivations, but for now, let's get into the core gameplay elements of the character. Time for the nitty-gritty. Let's talk skills and how to prioritize them. Due to the nature of Starfield's leveling system, it is hard to give an exact order of leveling skills because each requires certain challenges to be completed first. So for instance, I might say get pistol certification rank 3 at level 8, but you may have not completed the required challenge by then, and we don't want to be sitting on skill points unallocated. So I thought it would be best to break down all the skills the character needs in the long run. I will then provide some benchmark examples of the build at levels 15, 30, and 50, roughly encapsulating an early, mid, and late game feel in the leveling section of this video, letting you know what to prioritize. The Gunslinger invests hard into the combat skills, very hard. There are many additional effects and benefits in here that truly take your Gunslinger to the next level. Starting with the basics, we have ballistics, of which we start with rank 1 because of our soldier background. At 4 ranks, this will increase our damage with ballistic weapons by 30%, and ballistic weapon range will be increased by 30% as well. This 4th rank is less vital, but it is a nice bonus, and functionally, it helps us get to tier 3 combat skills. The second tier 1 skill we want is pistol certification, the bread and butter of this build. Unlike other weapon skills, the damage of pistols also scales more. Instead of ranks 1, 2, and 3 increasing the respective weapon damage by 10% a rank, totaling 30%, pistols increase 10% rank 1, then 25% rank 2, and 50% more damage rank 3, and on top of that, rank 4 makes it so pistol kills grant plus 25% critical hit chance for 5 seconds, which is going to stack great with some of the later skills. We don't want any of the skills in tier 2, but in tier 3 we are picking up a lot. From left to right, we are going with marksmanship, which at ranks 1, 2, and 3 increases critical hit chance by 3, 8, and 15% respectively, with non-automatic ranged weapons. At rank 4, critical hits will also do double damage. Combined with rank 4 of pistols, after a pistol kill for 5 seconds, we will have a 40% critical hit chance on top of whatever the base is, and I love those odds, especially as we can unload all 6 shots in seconds with the binary trigger weapon mod. Next is rapid reloading. The first rank is a big help, cutting reload speed for ballistic weapons, which is what we use, by 30%. Now, the next 2 ranks do affect the reload of energy and particle weapons, which we don't really use. However, rank 3 also gives us a 50% chance to avoid getting interrupted while reloading, which is handy. But at rank 4, which I have elected to take, there is a chance on hitting an enemy that reload speed increases by 50% for 15 seconds, and considering that we are running and gunning with a revolver that can empty its rounds almost instantly, we will be reloading a lot, so I think this is a very valuable pick to ultimately have 80% reload speed procced almost always. Next, we tackle targeting, which at each rank progressively increases accuracy and range when shooting from the hip, and it also marks enemies that damage you. Marked enemies appear as if they are picked up by a thermal scanner, and you can see them through walls. This is a handy add so that when you are running through the battlefield, slinging your bullets into enemies left, right, and center, you will always be aware of who is shooting at you, allowing you to switch focus to your next target with ease. The 4th rank of targeting marks up to 4 enemies within 100 meters, and it also gives you a 10% chance to disarm a target on hit when shooting without aiming. And by the way, from what I can tell, this also seems to work when you pistol whip them with a melee hit. It's a neat bonus, very on theme, and this skill really does help the run and gun playstyle. Now, with tier 4, we dive into every one of these skills. Armor penetration allows you at 3 ranks to ignore 50% of a target's armor, and at rank 4, enemy armor is decreased by 25% for 6 seconds after a critical hit. This is going to be vital in helping us just delete those high-level armored enemies. The next skill is crippling, which can be a big bonus, especially on those tougher enemies. Rank 1 increases the chance for human enemies to enter a down state after taking enough damage by 30%. At rank 2, enemies have a 50% increased chance to not recover from said down state. At rank 3, enemies can enter a down state even earlier, and at rank 4, you do 100% more damage to downed enemies. And previous ranks now affect all enemy types, like alien creatures. This is way more useful than you may think, and it helps keep those enemies that you can't kill instantly down and out for the fight, so that you can walk up to them with the righteous fury of the law and put those dogs down. The final skill we need from the combat group is sharpshooting. Rank 1 increases headshot critical damage by 50%, rank 2 increases leg critical damage by 50%, rank 3 increases all critical damage to enemies by 50%, and at rank 4, critical hits increases your crit chance by 25% for 20 seconds. So in action, getting a critical hit with your pistol with all the combat skills will be giving you a critical hit chance of 65% for 5 seconds, sharpshooting 25%, with rank 4 pistols 25% after a pistol kill for 5 seconds, and marksmanship's 15% crit chance general buff, which is amazing, and it works brilliantly with the rapid kill playstyle that this gunslinging aficionado has. So that is it for the combat skills. This character puts the bulk of their skill points in here, but let's talk about some of the other extra skills this character will be taking advantage of. The physical skills provide some very nice benefits for the gunslinger. In tier 1, we want to go with fitness and wellness. Fitness at successive ranks is going to increase the amount of oxygen we have available 10, 20, and 30% more at ranks 1, 2, and 3. And at rank 4, this significantly reduces the amount of oxygen that sprinting uses. This is a run and gun build, and so running is something we'll be doing lots of. We are almost always on the move, maneuvering, ducking, and dodging, so we don't want to be puffed out and hunkered down under fire. It's an important pick, and it takes a good while to get through the challenges, so I recommend leveling it throughout your playthrough, but we'll get to that later. If you find that you are fine without the extra oxygen, then you can decide whether to skip some of the later ranks and instead invest in those somewhere else, perhaps in extra utility skills like commerce or scavenging, which are useful for pretty much everyone. But I'm giving a skill list based on the ideal level 50 gunslinger, so I can't account for everyone's individual preferences. Wellness is the other skill we work on, and I did find it quite worth the investment, especially at earlier levels when the gunslinger isn't killing quite as quick yet. It increases your maximum health by 10, 20, 30, and 40% at respective ranks of 1, 2, 3, and 4. It is very easy to level, which is a bonus as well. Now, this next one is a fun one, gymnastics. The first rank unlocks the combat slide, allowing you to sprint and slide into cover by crouching, and especially in the earlier levels when you can't keep up the kill spree for as long and sometimes need to take cover, it's a cool plus. It also comes with a 15% reduction of fall damage at rank 1, which by rank 3 becomes 30% reduction. However, ranks 2 and 3 also bring some benefits in 0G environments, allowing you to move faster and be more stable while firing, and the rank 3 also replenishes some oxygen after mantling. These little added benefits help the run and gun playstyle, but it really is the rank 4 that brings the bread. It increases your jump height, but ridiculously. Combined with the boost pack, this makes you so damn maneuverable. It is really fun, and it also makes you run faster for a short time after combat sliding or mantling. Ultimately, gymnastics is an awesome skill that brings extra flavor to the character. It isn't the most vital or statistically motivated skill choice, but it makes the playstyle so much more fun. As a gunslinging ranger, there are some useful skills to take in the tech group. Boost pack training is great for pretty much everyone, but even more importantly for the gunslinger playstyle, it offers vastly increased maneuverability, allowing you to scale heights incredibly quickly, especially when combined with the gymnastics rank 4 skill. When making this build, I really wanted to deliver on a character that can run and gun non-stop, just a blaze of bullets that can hit everyone in an enemy base before anyone really knows what's up. The final of the skills we picked for this build is piloting. You will be joining the Freestar Rangers, and thematically any cowboy in a western has got to have a horse. Instead, in Starfield, we have a ship. The piloting skill is really great for most characters, and being both a better pilot within the first 2 ranks offering better functionality, and ranks 3 and 4 allowing us to use better ships, we think this is a very worthwhile pick. Also, Freestar Ranger missions from the mission board will often have us hunting down Crimson Fleet or Spacer ships, or we will even be rescuing hostages who have had their ships commandeered by criminals. It is well worth it. I designed this build skill set around the core tenets of speed, maneuverability, and damage output, hence the heavy investment in combat skills and additions like gymnastics, fitness, and boost pack training. However, I did want to throw out some little additional caveats and other possibilities for you. I would highly recommend against foregoing companions in your first playthrough, and there are lots of cool interactions that happen with them during the faction quest lines, especially with Sam Coe during the Freestar Rangers faction. But if this is your secondary playthrough, or perhaps you really want to go it solo, you could absolutely play into the Lone Ranger archetype and make some different skill picks. In the social skill group, there is the skill Isolation, which essentially functions like the Lone Wanderer perk in Fallout 4. This skill at rank 4 gives you 40% more weapon damage and 60 damage resistance for each spacesuit and helmet equipped when you don't have a companion or any crew, which is a pretty big buff. So if you wanted to go that route, you could perhaps add in or swap out something for investment into the social skill group. You'll need to get to tier 2 of social though, so you're looking at an 8 skill point investment to pay off. I'd suggest in this case going with 2 points into scavenging and 2 into commerce to unlock tier 2, so you can then invest in isolation. You could also go into persuade alternatively to commerce or scavenging, but I didn't think it fits the vibe of the gunslinger. He doesn't negotiate with outlaws. As you get beyond level 50, there are other skills you could also add or work towards, things like weapon engineering and the science skills, or perhaps even go further into tech with starship design and boost assault training. But with all that said, let's talk leveling with the skill set I prescribed already. Right out of the gate at level 1, we will have, due to our soldier background, the skills Fitness, Ballistics, and Boost Pack Training. All of these are skills we'll be using in our build, so it's a useful head start. In terms of priorities, we really want to get those combat perks going, and so we really want to focus our gameplay on combat-related missions. My recommendation for this build is to go to Aquila as soon as possible and join the Freestar Rangers. You will get your hands on Deadeye, which is the cool filigree revolver, a unique Razorback, and you will have access to the Freestar Rangers mission board found in the Rock, the Rangers base. There will be a variety of missions here which I recommend taking often throughout your playthrough, helping you rack up experience and credits, plus it will get you clearing bases of enemies, collecting bounties, bringing justice to the wild frontier. Most importantly, we want to be able to get rank 4 of ballistics and pistols ASAP. I highly recommend that your first skill point goes into pistol certification rank 1 so that you can complete the challenges for both ballistics and pistols at the same time. Both of these skills require kills for the challenges, so it's best to have them done concurrently. You're going to need a total of 170 kills with ballistics and pistols, 20 to unlock rank 2, 50 to unlock rank 3, and 100 to unlock rank 4. Prioritize skill points into pistols and ballistics so that you have each rank unlocked as soon as possible. This is vitally important so we can start getting the skills in tier 3. I'd even go as far to say save your skill points for them, especially if you level up and say only have 5 more kills to go or something like that. I mentioned before in the skill section that rank 4 of ballistics isn't the most important for our playstyle, but it is important so that we can get to the tier 3 skills, and it will likely be completed in the same time, if not sooner than pistols, because it is a starting skill from the background. If you really don't want to grab that, you could also dump a point into rank 1 of shotguns, perhaps use them as a backup even, but honestly I'm not a big fan of that play. I want my Gunslinger character to be using pistols, and the range benefit can pay off in more niche situations. Regardless of how you approach this, you should be able to ideally get them maxed in rank by level 10, and hence I built my level 10 recommendations around that. By level 10 you should have 2 ranks in wellness, which is an easy one to level the challenges for. You just have to take damage, and ideally ranks 4 of ballistics and pistol certification. This gives our Gunslinger a ton of damage output really early, and this makes a big difference because our weapons of choice are ballistic pistols, so we will be getting 50% more damage from pistol certification and 30% more damage from ballistics. Big damage buff here. Just to clarify, this is a level 10 benchmark. If you aren't quite at ranks 4 of ballistics and pistols and instead got something else on the list of skills, don't stress. Just get them as soon as possible. The main reason for which is opening up the 3rd tier of combat skills. By level 15, we should have grabbed every single skill from this tier that we will be using, including marksmanship rank 1, rapid reloading rank 1, and targeting rank 1. And on top of these, I'd suggest grabbing rank 2 of fitness so that tier 2 of physical is now unlocked, and grab 1 rank of piloting, broadening our skills a little bit so we can focus on them over time. So to clarify, the benchmark example for the Gunslinger build at level 15 has the following skills: ballistics rank 4, pistol certification rank 4, marksmanship rank 1, rapid reloading rank 1, targeting rank 1, fitness rank 2, wellness rank 2, boost pack training rank 1 from our background, and piloting rank 1. Now between then and the level 30 benchmark, we're going to have some very important priorities. As soon as you get to level 16, you'll want to dump a point into either marksmanship, rapid reloading, or targeting, whichever you have the challenge completed for, because this will then unlock tier 4 of the combat skills. This is where we want to spend levels 17, 18, and 19 placing a point into armor penetration, crippling, and sharpshooting. This way we have every combat skill we are taking with at least 1 point in them, so that we can begin working on all these challenges concurrently, and I will say some of them, such as crippling and targeting, can take a long time to complete their challenges, so it's best to start as early in your playthrough as possible. I think at level 20 it is worthwhile putting that skill point into rank 1 of gymnastics, just so that we can get that started, and by this point we have taken on at least 1 rank of every skill we are taking. After this, keep in mind we want to prioritize the combat skills as much as possible. Here is a benchmark example of what a level 30 Gunslinger looks like. Ballistics rank 4, pistols rank 4, marksmanship rank 3, rapid reloading rank 2, targeting rank 2, armor penetration rank 2, crippling rank 1, sharpshooting rank 2, fitness rank 3, wellness rank 4, gymnastics rank 2, boost pack training rank 2, and piloting rank 1. By now you should really be feeling quite powerful, and the crit stacking only gets higher as you continue to rank up those tier 3 and 4 combat skills. Still, the advice here is to prioritize combat skills, but don't worry so much that you are hanging on to skill points trying to grind crippling or targeting up. Those skills will take a while. Just let them happen happen as you play, and don't be afraid to put available points into the tertiary skills like piloting or gymnastics. As we get further in level here, the advice becomes all the broader, so it will depend on where you are at with the several challenges. To recap, the benchmark level 50 skills for the Gunslinger are rank 4 of all the following: ballistics, pistol certification, marksmanship, rapid reloading, targeting, armor penetration, crippling, sharpshooting, fitness, wellness, gymnastics, boost pack training, and piloting. With that all said and done, let's break up some of this statistical heaviness with a nice backstory for our character. The Gunslinger's life has been marred by the harsh realities of the frontier. Some 40 years ago, at the edges of Freestar space, Wayland Reed was born in Picton, a dusty settlement on a backwater world, inhabited only by worm farmers slaving away for megacorporations with balance sheets as green as the most distant paradise. There was little to do here but work and drink, and there were few children. Most of the workers sent money back to their families elsewhere. Only some had the desperation, or in his father's case, the callousness, to expose their family to these pitiful conditions. Wayland's childhood was not a rarity among such backwaters. The father turns to drink, takes his anger out at home, tears, bruises. You know the drill. His early years were of fear and frustration. The starry promise of a better future above was his only relief. At 13, the family's life was upended with what he only recalls as a triumphant tragedy. His father was killed in a bar fight, glassed for bad-mouthing the wrong guy in the wrong place. Because of this, his mother took he and his sister off-world to live with his aunt and cousins. They had to sell everything to make the credits for the trip. The Cheyenne system, the heart of the collective, was their destination. The city of Aquila itself was unlike anything the young boy had seen. He was enraptured by the life, the ships coming and going constantly, travelers bringing their goods to the bustling markets, things from worlds he couldn't imagine. It was to his disappointment when he found out that his aunt did not in fact live in Aquila, but owned a farm some 100 kilometers away, to which they took a small shuttle capable of only planetary travel. The next 4 years were more peaceful than the last 13, but that was not saying much. Ashta would snatch the livestock constantly and were an ever-looming threat. His aunt's second husband was wheelchair-bound after losing his legs to their savagery, and the struggles did not stop with the wildlife. Gangs would roam and come to demand credits and food in return for protection, as the racket goes. Wayland cherished any opportunity he had to go into town, something they had to do every couple of months, but it would be a day or two in the city and then back to work the farm. While his family would rest from the early morning work, Wayland could not give up the opportunity to explore the savannah valleys in the middle of the day when the Ashta were least active, and he would climb to the peak of rocky hills and peer off towards Aquila, occasionally seeing ships far overhead heading towards the spaceport. He laid back under the sky, his hat rested on his face as the fresh breeze carried him to sleep. He jerked awake under a sunset and sprinted home, thinking that he was to be met with the scolding of a lifetime. But alas, he was beset with misery as he looked upon the strewn corpses of his family leading to the steps of a burning homestead. The local gang had grown bored, or perhaps it was another, more sadistic group. He would never truly know. He ran and ran through the night, his heaving breath holding back tears, his fears of Ashta focusing his mind. By mid-morning the next day, Aquila security spied the stumbling, near-collapsing boy of 17. Wayland's vision blurred, then blackened, and when he awoke, he was in the Aquila barracks. His life so far had been a long, rocky road of tragedy and mundane violence, and so when he was offered a job as a cleaner in return for a bunk and food, he took it. His days at the barracks were long and monotonous, but they provided a sense of security he hadn't felt in a long time. He quickly made friends with some of the younger recruits, and they would often share stories from their past, and it was through these stories that Wayland realized he wasn't the only one who had faced hardships. This camaraderie gave him a sense of belonging and alleviated some of the pain from his traumatic past. When the colony war ignited, Wayland was first to put his hand up to join, eager to be a part of something larger than himself, and it was a chance to see what else is out there. The war gave him many things: purpose, training, brotherhood, but in the same years it took all that and more. He grew to be a crack shot with a gun, a skill that fast-tracked him to mech pilot training, and so he fought the armies of the United Colonies alongside his compatriots. But today, his face bears the scars of his failures. Brothers were cooked alive in their mechs as fire rained from the skies above. Wayland should have been among the dead, but somehow he survived, his youthful appearance marred by the etching flames of his molten mech. He spent many months in hospital after rescue, and suddenly, unceremoniously, the war was over. The armistice was signed. By age 21, Wayland Reed had seen more horror and tragedy than what is typically contained within several lifetimes. For a period after, he worked with several militias across the fringes of Freestar space, defending those rebuilding it from the vultures who set upon the carcasses of war, though this was a constant process of reopening old wounds and reliving nightmares. He slowly sunk into a life of drink, right to the bottom of the bottle, and when he saw his father's face in the mirror, he cast aside the alcohol and demoted himself to a banal life, floating through friends and odd jobs, passing through the infinite like a speck of stardust. Eventually, he landed a mining gig with Argos extractors, but perhaps there is something more to life, something out there, some hope, some grander purpose. Now that you know the backstory, you understand this rather grizzled and tragic character, and perhaps you can see why he may be callous and cold-hearted, especially when it comes to dealing with those on the wrong side of the law. As the Gunslinger leaves Crete and joins Constellation, he will be filled with a renewed vigor, something he has not felt since he first joined the Freestar Militia in the Colony War. He worries that he may tread the same path again, but coincidence and perceived signs had dared him to hope and believe, and so he will dare to aspire to a grander purpose once more. He will for the first time in many years revisit Aquila, and here he will join the Freestar Rangers, but unlike some of the other Rangers, he won't necessarily aspire to peaceful resolutions. The Gunslinger has been through a lot of pain and witnessed far more, and much of this was caused by gangs, pirates, and other outlaws that bring hate and horror to all corners. The Gunslinger aspires to protect the innocence of the Freestar Collective, and will put down hundreds of outlaws to do so. He isn't the kind to back down from a fight. He's more likely to start a fight with scum than de-escalate. Remember from earlier in the video, the song God's Gonna Cut You Down by Johnny Cash is the vibe. He has no mercy for evil. In any interaction with gangs or pirates, the Gunslinger is going to be looking for the quickest way to put a bullet in their skull. Remember, he still believes in the concepts of justice and kindness. He is just uncompromising and perhaps cold in his application of the law, but at the same time, he isn't going to start shooting sprees whenever he sees someone litter. He understands degrees of justice and isn't a stickler for rules as much as he is vehemently against people who abuse others. Think less Judge Dredd, but more a friendly yet stern marshal who is ready to take on an outlaw gang all by himself with his six-shooter by his side. I think having manners and pleasantries is also part of the character vibe. A southern hospitality should be apparent. Keep all these facets of his personality in the forefront of your mind when playing through the quests of Starfield. I didn't intend for this guy to be interacting with the UC questline, mainly because taking a part in the Colony War against them and having your brothers slaughtered by UC missiles makes it not a great fit for the vibe of this character, though I'm sure there are ways to roleplay a reconciliation, accepting the armistice and believing in a better future. It's up to you if you want to take him this way, and the Raijin faction is just not a good fit for the character. As for companions, I think Sam Coe provides a really good fit for the Freestar experience, and he has plenty of cool dialogue throughout the Ranger's questline. However, he may have problems with your approach to quests sometimes, but this is part of the role-playing. You don't want to be pussyfooting around your companions to be seeking their approval constantly. In the end, you should be yielding a net positive in terms of his likes and dislikes, and so it should feel rewarding still. The Gunslinger is far from an outpost-oriented character, however, there is potential to go and find yourself a little spot of peace and set up a little ranch somewhere. So now after the backstory and role-playing sections, you should really have a feel for the Gunslinger that we've made for you, and it will surely help you understand the aesthetic vibe of the build. If you're familiar with our classic Fallout 4 and Skyrim builds, then you would know that we often like to prioritize the rule of cool and a badass vibe over pure statistical maxing. Same as the skills, we want to give the most on-theme and fun gameplay experience. I think, like the skills section, this gear section is best broken up into early, mid, and late game segments for recommendations. In the early game, you're probably going to have to prioritize your spacesuit's armor values over whatever aesthetic preference we want, and we can't even yet get the spacesuits that we desire, so it's really anything goes. Opt for the more rugged aesthetic suit if possible. However, when it comes to the clothes we wear and the weapons we wield, we have no such excuse. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to want to make our way to Aquila as soon as reasonably possible, and here is where a lot of our gear is going to be bought or given to us. When you join the Freestar Rangers, you will be granted the unique Razorback revolver, Deadeye, as well as a deputy outfit outfit. Deadeye will be the most useful in the early to mid game, the ideal weapon for dispatching most of your enemies with 1 or 2 shots, depending on your current skills. However, we are going to want to buy a much more powerful gun, a unique regulator pistol called Elegance. This can be found at Rowland Arms in Aquila. It has the binary trigger mod, which allows us to fire super fast, and it just unloads into enemies, deleting them from existence. Each of those weapons use different ammo types, and so these will be your go-to choices to cycle between for the early game. Plus, you'll probably want to have a Rattler or an Eon on the backup in case you burn through your ammo. By the way, binary trigger is the mod to look out for. If you happen to be able to find or buy a Razorback with the binary trigger mod, this is the gun we want. As cool as Deadeye looks, it will unfortunately get outclassed eventually by calibrated, refined, and advanced Razorbacks, especially ones with the binary trigger mod, which is what has been used in the gameplay. You may be wondering why we don't have any weapon engineering for mods, and well, in this case, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. The receiver mod research needed to add a binary trigger, plus the skills needed to research that, is just too much of an investment to save a little bit of hassle of having to be lucky and loot or check vendors and buy a Razorback with a binary trigger. But that's the weapons understood. Let's touch on the aesthetic, the fit. Early game, the deputy clothes can work and fit the vibe, but ditch the cap. It's a travesty. We won't do the Gunslinger dirty like that. He needs a cowboy hat. Head to the general store in Tequila and get yourself a Settler's Adventure hat so you can look like a true cowboy. And then, if you want an alternative to the deputy outfit, the Frontier attire or the Freestar Militia uniforms will fit the bill and get the job done. But let's talk halftime. There is a very, very good chance that by the mid-game you'll have completed the Freestar Rangers questline, and throughout the course of that story you'll be able to get the first mercenary outfit. And this is the outfit that I've been wearing the whole video. It gives off a little more rugged vibe. It feels like what a hardy gunslinger should be wearing, and so that is what I stick with. You can also choose to wear the Freestar Ranger outfit, and while it fits, it doesn't have the X factor that I think the current fit has. Ultimately, it's up to you, but let's talk weapons. You should have been feeling Deadeye's ineffectiveness growing, and unfortunately this is because it is simply getting out-leveled. If you didn't know, Starfield has leveled weapons, calibrated, refined, and advanced. These are functionally the same weapons, but they are much higher in damage than the base version. You need these for higher levels, so you will want to, from now on, prioritize finding calibrated, refined, or ultimately advanced Razorback pistols with the binary trigger mod. I can't stress the importance of the binary trigger mod. It takes the Razorback from a solid gun to an amazing gun. Always check the Laredo Firearms and Rowland Firearms stores in Tequila. If they come with a scope, just replace it with the iron sights easily at a weapons bench. As for the spacesuit fit, at the end of the Rangers questline, we will get our hands on a Rangers spacesuit and boost pack, which is a very cool aesthetic fit. It's got this old-timey feel with the leathers, and it's a very solid option stats-wise. It's probably more powerful than what you're currently wearing. Now for the late game gear, and fortunately it's a pretty simple explanation. You've got your iconic outfit sorted, you know what the deal is with weapons, make sure you have an advanced Razorback with a binary trigger mod, and the rest is point, shoot, and look badass. For your spacesuit, however, by the later levels, the unique Rangers one probably isn't going to cut it anymore, and you may want to look into upgrading. The superior Trackers Alliance spacesuit or its earlier versions do a good job in terms of stats and aesthetic. I think of all the spacesuits, it suits the personality of the Gunslinger most, and for the helmet, I chose the Deep Recon helmet. While not a matching set, I feel as if it looks better and is a more natural looking fit. You can also opt to continue using the Rangers space helmet, which also looks quite nice with it. The next bit is a new section to our builds and exclusive to Starfield, given that it is a section dedicated to starships. I think each build deserves at least a little section on the ship. It's got to match the aesthetic vibe and personality of the character. So for this build in particular, I wanted a certain vibe. I liked the sort of Firefly-esque hunk of junk vibe to the Gunslinger's ship. I went for this rusty color and made it from more angular type Deimos or Nova pieces. Also, in the traditional Western genre, horses are very important. They are the main mode of transport, and so fittingly, I elected to name this ship simply Horse. And his design was a longer cockpit and 4 landing gear legs, kind of make him look more like a horse without looking ridiculous. I managed to make do with just particle beams, but stacking multiple of them so I can do equal shield damage and hull damage, but without having to distribute power to multiple systems. In my playthrough with the Gunslinger, I sported this bad boy until I was gifted a little something different. Throughout the course of the Freestar Rangers questline, you will be gifted the Star Eagle, an iconic Ranger space ship, and this is what I opted to use and upgrade throughout the rest of the questline. This is my B-class ship. I still still haven't got around to upgrading yet. It's the Star Eagle with a different paint job, and I made some adjustments to the rooms, making them living quarters instead of a brig, because as cool as a brig is for prisoners, the Gunslinger takes none. So at the end of the day, the Gunslinger ship is essentially a flashier, comfier Star Eagle with better specs. The Gunslinger is not focused on ships a lot at all, and since we are handed a ship for free, and the Gunslinger is a 3-star ranger, which is a core part of his identity as he brings justice to the starry frontier, I figured it would be better to keep the Star Eagle for this one. You could alternatively stick to horse and upgrade his specs, but that's up to you. Everyone, that is everything you need to know to completely immerse yourself in the Gunslinger, the ranger fighting on the frontier, bringing criminal scum to justice with a well-placed bullet and a smoking barrel. It's now time that you dive into his story yourself. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed the very first of our many role-playing builds to come. Starfield truly is an incredible game with lots of role-playing character potential, and I can't wait to share what we have come up with. Please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for the more builds to come, along with other sensational Starfield content we have coming daily. My name is Scott, thanks again so much for watching, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again soon.